All right, welcome to this special edition of the Future Work Forum. Today, you'll hear from three Future Work Forum partners, Jennifer Vessels, Carolina Yeo, and myself, Diana Wu David, whose combined expertise spans global business transformation, leadership development, and future-focused innovation. We'll be giving you a taste and up-to-date insights from our recent article, Accelerating Success with Advanced Technology, How Leaders Are Winning Today. So today, our focus is on a subset of that, which is generative AI and advanced technology, and how leaders can determine what's safe, set effective guidelines, and maximize real returns from AI investments. So let's get started. We have a few questions we've come up with together. The first one was around safety and ethics, because if it's not safe, you can't go forward. And a lot of our clients and our own projects need to understand or take it into account that AI adoption comes with risks. So how do you determine what's safe, ethically, operationally, when integrating generative AI into your organization, into your clients' organizations? Who wants to start?
I will jump in because I work with a lot of companies around the globe where I think when the word AI comes up, one of the reactions is fear.
Mm.
And people have a perception that AI has a mind of its own. In reality, today, AI is a tool. It's a tool building on data, building on technology, and building on machine learning. That learning can only go so far in today's world. So I encourage them to think about AI as a tool, and just like any tool, whether it's a kitchen knife or a big piece of machinery used for mining, as one of our clients, Brother World, uses, when you bring in a new tool, you don't just open up the world saying, everybody jump on and use this however you want, because you could have destruction. So when you bring in this AI tool, it's important to really understand the safety requirements, understand what is possible, understand the right ways of using it, and roll it out slowly as a tool to solve specific problems with some guidelines and guardrails.
So
I
interesting.
totally agree, yeah, with
Yeah, go
Jennifer
ahead.
here as well. I think the part of using any tool is also to have a discussion across all levels, starting with the leaders, understanding the impact that this tool would have, and encouraging also feedback and a clear thought process as the implementation takes place. So a more democratic approach where we have the perspectives and the addressing the fears, as you said, across all the different levels in the organization will help them contribute, but it would also help them think forward and help them prepare as well. Yeah. So I think that's a very good point. Diana, I cut you off a little bit. Please go ahead. Yeah.
No, the experience that I've had is that lack of knowledge breeds fear, and that one of the biggest adoption challenges has been the lack of people with enough knowledge within an organization. And so there is this kind of circle, virtuous circle, where people understand, and then, there's guidelines or, bounce ropes that you can use to ensure that iteratively, as things progress, people have less fear, they understand a little bit more, they understand what the risks and opportunities are. And that in most companies is a sort of iterative process, and everybody's at different levels. So I'm curious. So Carol, you're actually building with AI. And one of the things that everybody talks about is guidelines and guardrails. Either the sort of the ethical implications, or even how it connects to the company's values. So what are you doing in your build process to make sure that happens?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we are at I think, the early start of the discussion because the product and the platform is being built out as we speak. And in the first stages, before we had looked into the designing part, we have to also put on the user's hat, right? So as a user, and a large part is very logical, isn't it? So it's not that AI is this mysterious tool that nobody knows. What AI is used for is, in fact, information that all of us uses, that all of us want to leverage technology to make certain actions after, like a recommendation of jobs and skills in our case. And
Yeah.
so for us to be on the early stage as this team building out, solving an issue for our members, for our users, it's about putting that hat and going through that logical experience and flow and thinking, okay, where is this point that might be a little bit sensitive? How do we want to protect that information? Where do we store data? How do we address, the legalities across different parts of the world? As you know, in Germany, it's famed for setting the rules and tough regulations across different topics, including AI. And so there is a difference between using the data or leveraging the data for our users in Germany, in EU, versus those who are in Asia, where we are, Diana.
Mm.
And this discussion helps our team understand, but it's only the start. As I said, there is a lot more that we have to follow. There are a lot of new regulations that comes in place in this process, and it's important, I think, we constantly engage, and being on the seat at this table is very exciting for me personally, because I'm also then part of shaping how we look into the guardrails. What about you both?
I agree, and I just one point that I want to note, because it's very much a part of the way we work with clients, and I've heard from both of you, and that is to start small,
Correct.
because so much
Great
is
point.
changing quickly, and there's no way any person can say, I know everything about how to use Gen AI in order to build a platform for search. But you can't. You start with one small thing. As we say in Silicon Valley, you don't boil the ocean. You boil a cup of water and you taste it, and then you boil the next and you make an ocean that way.
Yeah,
That's a
I think
great
that
point.
it's so interesting always chatting to you because I think we all cross multiple jurisdictions, especially. So you're in the Nordics and Silicon Valley. I'm, in the US and kind of all over Middle East, and yet I'm sitting in Hong Kong. And so it really gives me a, a visceral frustration about how different AI opportunities are. You can always use a VPN, but we don't have access to a lot of Google products like Google Notebook, and we don't have easy access to OpenAI and that kind of thing because of being in China. So it's just really interesting too to think about, guardrails are really, if you're a global company, guardrails are different. And
True.
even if you've kind of been doing AI for a long time, there are just different ways that your employees will access these offerings that you have. So it's fascinating to me. But in terms of the practicality, we talked about the guardrails, which are important, and starting small. Um, but what about adoption? Because the flip side of it is um, that a lot of AI progress is not happening in companies because the people within the companies are saying either they don't see the need or they don't understand, or the leadership is not telling them what the benefit is. It really changes. So what are you seeing in terms of strategies to address resistance or fear among employees around generative AI?
I really believe the most important thing anyone can do to overcome and work through resistance is to understand why the person is resisting. to ask a lot of questions. How do you believe AI will impact your role? How do you believe you can effectively utilize it? What are the challenges you're trying to solve? And let's work together to kind of bring down that fear factor, because in my experience, 99% of the resistance to AI is fear of, number one, being replaced. It will be smarter than me. Number two, that the person will not be able to skillfully use AI. I will look stupid. I don't know anything about this. I'm not a technology person. And so that causes people to want to run away, or it causes them to fight strong against it. It activates that fight or flight idea within us that there's this thing coming at us and it's going to hurt us. So you've got to get people past that. You've got to help them articulate what the fear is, help them feel comfortable, build trust. It's not a simple process, but it is a human change management that I believe makes the difference in the long term versus teaching them how to use the tool, because
Mm,
it's got to come
love
from
that.
inside.
I love the fact that you were saying, have, ask questions of people in
Yeah.
terms of how they can see using AI as opposed to teaching them. And part of it is because, I mean, I know Accenture did a survey in January of last year, and
Mm-hmm.
95% of workers surveyed saw value in working with generative AI, but didn't trust the organizations to ensure positive outcomes for everyone. And I think that that's basically sums up what you just said, which is like,
Interesting.
we don't know what our leadership is
Yep.
doing with this. And
Yeah,
we don't necessarily think it's going to be good for us, not because AI, and generative AI is bad, but because we just don't trust our leaders because they're not
exactly.
communicating or they're not asking us. I don't know. What do you think, Carol?
I am reminded of the session that we did last year on advanced technology. And in one of the interviews that we have with a corporate that produces consumer products,
Mhm.
um, one thing I think came through quite importantly of how they have tried to incorporate innovation. And I see this as a very similar process, right?
Mhm.
When that process of trying and learning and failing and making mistakes and then trying again is celebrated and made into a weekly routine where they have fun with it. It's so ingrained that it's like if my leader is doing it and we're having fun trying and failing is not important in the process, it's entrenched. And then there
Yes.
is that safety learning culture, right? And I would love to have hear more about how other organizations are doing it. And yourself both, Jennifer and Diana, if you've heard of clients who have taken also that approach.
Absolutely. I mean, we've worked with a number of companies from Udemy to even Microsoft on building learning labs. That is a fancy name for what you just described, that it's
They're
either every 2 weeks or every month. They bring
wonderful.
together a diverse team, including the leaders, including the Gen Zers who sometimes know more about this than the leaders. They bring them together for an hour session. They attack a problem or they tag into a new tool, and they say, for the next month, let's see where we go with this. And then they come back together and they share, what did they learn, what worked, what didn't work, and then they take the next one. So it's a fabulous process. I love it.
Yeah, it seems to me that there is a lot of talk about what tools are being used, how are they
Mhm.
being used, and actually, I don't know if it was the environment or what, but uh, there was a lot of requests from my clients to play with
Mm.
AI. They said we don't want somebody to come and sort of teach us. We want interactive workshops where we are, imagining the future. We're using AI tools to do that, and we just want to have fun with it. And we feel like that's the way that people are going to be change their attitude towards it. So
We
we,
should do it between ourselves within Future Work Forum.
Great Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's have a learning lab,
That
future
would
work
be
forum
fun.
style. Yeah,
Read to our next article.
absolutely. Starting
I mean,
now.
I do think that there is, in the senior leadership, there is also this drive to understand, you know, beyond playing with it and learning labs, like how do we then go from sandbox to, you know,
Mhm.
generating real value? So are we there yet, do you think?
I see that in certain cases, and in those cases, which is consistent with what we found in the article a year ago, the cases that are effective in delivering real results always start with the business issue. They
Yeah.
don't start with, oh, let's see what Gen AI can do for our team. They start with, we have this challenge with processing claims in the insurance business. It
Mm-hmm.
takes us 7 weeks to get back to people and we're losing customers. How might a tool like Gen AI speed that process? Oh, it can review the claim. It can actually craft the communication. It can be a respondent at the first level. Now let's try that with this small segment of our clients. When that works, we move to the next one. So I believe it's got to start with the business problem.
Hmm. I do think, and this is me observing, different sizes or different diversity of organizations, right? The organizations that have gone from away from the zero, so zero meaning no AI, generative AI at all, to that step one, I think those are the ones where there is already that comfort level, right? But for
Mhm.
one that has not yet even, like you said, rightfully said, Jennifer, address it, how can we use it to solve a business problem? Then I think for the rest of the organization to come in and suggest it seems a leap that is might be a bit tricky. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering to your question. So this is more, you've inspired some thought process here, Diana, with the question. What can we move from zero to one? What can leaders do to move from zero to one, so that conversations happens organically within, rather than it always being a top down, but it could also be a bottom up approach as well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on both ends of the spectrum. So, working with larger MNCs that are largely realizing value from the productivity gains
Mm,
because it's embedded in their large systems, so the co-pilots,
hmm
Google, Gemini, um, the ServiceNow workflows, et cetera. So, you know, they're starting to see those kind of value benefits. And then on the other side, um, there's smaller organizations. Well, like my own organization, where every day I'm playing with it. And for the last, ever since it came out, more and more things are being automated. And,
Wonderful.
and I don't have the huge um, issues of like trying something out and worrying that 5,000 people are going to start doing it in my organization because we're
Mhm.
tiny. So there's that. We do think about data privacy and that kind of thing, but I have been playing a lot, in fact, because I have some university engineering students who are, and maybe this is an idea for those thinking about it, they are coming up with use cases. I have tasked them with saying, okay, here's my business. Like, what can I automate using what is available, which is usually for them, cutting edge stuff that's not even publicly available. And they have a much more computational mind. So, I'll describe a process and immediately they're like, well, we could just take the JSON file and we'll upload it to this and then, XYZ. And so when I have a client conversation, I can just upload the transcript of the conversation and it takes the relevant pieces and then puts it into a contract, for example. And,
Mhm.
that's something that I might do manually in the
Mhm.
past. And if I have a number of conversations, it'll pull, and then I just have to, kind of edit it and send it out. So, um, there are so many things that you can do and try. But I feel like we're still in this process where you don't know until you identify the use cases. I followed our advice from our article. Um, and then, think about what the process is. Think about maybe the safety we talked about. Is this a process that we can do within the guidelines? And how hard is it? And then prioritize and, test it out a little bit.
And I,
Absolutely.
I
I,
would agree with that. In fact, we're working extensively right now with Barlow, which is a large industrial company and a lot of different divisions, and they have recently committed 100% to the Microsoft platform and Copilot. And a classic case of, okay, IT, we've got Copilot, get people to use it. And that didn't work so good. So they were smart enough to recognize early on we need a different approach. And so what we're doing is we're bringing together the leadership team, the business leadership team, including the CIO, to say what are the most relevant, reasonably simple challenges that you're facing today. Let's lay those out, kind of like an innovation board. We lay them out and define what those challenges are, and then we rank them. Where could Copilot help? In these two
Mm.
challenges, they could help. Now let's get a tiny little tiger team together that is the business leaders supported by IT. We put a time frame of 6 months, we put the success measurements, and we get on with it. And it's been a huge breakthrough that it's a small initiatives, real problems that are impacting real people that are starting to see, oh, this Copilot thing is actually helping. And it hasn't killed anybody, it hasn't gotten rid of any jobs. In fact, it's made people stars. We've kind of shifted the mindset that you will be the star powered by the Copilot behind you. And so far,
yeah,
that's working extremely well.
I love that. Working labs and
yeah.
tiger teams.
We are on a roll here with all the fancy names to beautify this process. I love that. And I think what I'm hearing here is that, innovation also requires a structure, isn't it? And I
Yes.
love, Diana, you mentioned that if there is no know-how within the team, sometimes it's difficult to ask that first question, what can we do? Because we don't know what it could do. And that's the problem we face also within our very small team at NIH, that the business, the people responsible for driving the business may not have the technical technology knowledge. We upskill, we try, we get an understanding, but we also don't have full confidence because we don't know it as well as people with the tech background. And I love that you could also have a team of students who could show you the way so that we at least move forward. And Jennifer, with this structure from large organizations as a approach to really tackling it from a business standpoint, I think makes
Yes.
absolute sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. So as we come to the end, talking about future-proofing with AI, what last advice would you have for leaders who want to implement AI solutions in a way that ensures long-term success and adaptability in an ever-changing tech landscape?
I would start with the people.
Mm,
Really building an environment and a culture within the organization that says AI is a tool. It is a tool that can make you, the people, the real stars, the real winners. Build the trust there, and then introduce small projects that can help people to succeed more effectively, communicating that broadly throughout the organization. So people begin to see this is a win-win, the tool plus the human.
what do you think?
My, yeah, on my side, I think, the suggestion that I've heard a lot, given also to me, is, don't overthink the process. Try, have fun, make it into a routine of having fun while trying, while innovating. And if there's a use case based on what the people need, as Jennifer mentioned, then continue with it. If it doesn't work out, move forward. Overthinking it does not help. Simplifying the process, I think, makes the adoption much easier also for longer term as well. Yeah. Diana, what about you?
I love that. So keep it simple. We talked about use cases and we talked about structure. And in our article, we talk about one of the structures beyond learning labs have been hackathons. So as people think about even, just a hackathon around generating as many possible use cases, prioritizing them and maybe taking some of those forward, that is a way to gear up some of the competitive spirit. And I know some people, really large operations, who have done that and found amazing ideas. It's kind of a structured way to get feedback from all your people as to how we can use this in the company, and then maybe select a few to take forward. So yeah, use cases, structure, and a culture of um, urgent optimism around generative AI.
I love that.
And I love what you said of publicize the positive of the use cases, because I mean we as humans all have that fear of missing out. And so
Oh,
when
there you
people
go.
see, oh, look at what Diana accomplished in her team. Well, she is the star. I want some of that. I mean, play on the human emotion.
All
Makes
right, that
sense.
sounds good. And I do think that, at the end of the day, it's not just a business technology, it is a consumer technology that went out of Pandora's box very quickly. And to a certain extent, institutions and organizations are trying to catch up.
Mhm.
So there is that sense of wanting to, you know, understand more and play around a little bit and not miss out. So.
And yeah, and why not? Why do you want to miss out, right? I think that's also the question. Yeah, let's play.
A lot for the
Yeah,
future of work.
Yep.
absolutely.
Future of work is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to go over that sort of subset of our wonderful article, 1 year on. Thank you for joining today for this fascinating discussion. And as we've learned, leveraging generative AI and other advanced technologies, as we mentioned in our article, requires that balance of ethical considerations, strategic planning, growth mindset, and really continuing to iterate and experiment. So I hope that people see this and continue the conversation. You can visit Global Focus magazine to see our article with a broader base of emerging technology addressed, or follow Future Work Forum. So until the next time, stay curious and keep building the future of work. Thanks so much.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.